Hi, this is Kim with Scholarly Pursuits. I want to welcome you back to my channel. Now, during this segment of the Scholarly Pursuits channel, we're going to talk about what to do if you don't get the job. What to do if you get one of those non-select letters or one of those letters or an email. Nowadays, we're getting lots of emails that say you didn't get the job. The tendency is going to be to feel let down. The tendency is going to be, to feel a little disappointed. I'm going to give you some tips during this email about some steps that you can take to help you move forward in the job hunt, applying for jobs, looking for a job, obtaining that job for you during this segment. So, you've received an email that says you didn't get the job. And to be quite honest with you, more than likely you're going to receive more of those emails and more of those letters than the ones that say you got the job. It's just the reality of the job search, right? And that's okay. That's okay because each time you apply for a job, hopefully you're receiving some information that will help you with the next job. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming parts of this segment. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is just to acknowledge it, just to understand that this is a part of the process, to understand that it's okay not to feel so good about it, right? We get excited about those things that make us happy. But when we get what I would consider bad news that I didn't get the job, maybe sometimes we don't feel so good about it, right? And how do you keep going during those times? You can do it. I know you can. So you want to acknowledge the feelings. You want to share it with family and friends. Now, you don't want to be that person that all you ever talk about is, I didn't get the job, I didn't get that job, woe is me, because, then people may run from you, maybe not. But you want to validate your feelings, that it's okay not to feel that great. But you also want to keep everything in perspective, right? It's just a part of the process. You're going to get some jobs and some jobs you're just not going to get. Okay, so now we've acknowledged that we didn't receive the job. The next thing you want to do is to move on. And when I say that, I watched not a Netflix, it was a TED Talk. It was a TED Talk featuring a principal from a Philadelphia high school, North Philadelphia High School. And she talked about the journey that she undertook when she accepted that position as the high school principal. And it was amazing, and it was an inspirational story. But one of the takeaways I got from her story was when she said, "So what, now what?" That's one of the things she had to say to some of her teachers and staff. And on the surface, it seems maybe it might sound a little harsh, but in reality and practically, it made total sense to me. So what, now what? So what, now what? We don't have enough books, or our books are old books, or we can't go on field trips, or the building is torn up around us. There's some things we can do, right? We don't have the resources that we need. We don't have the personnel that we need. Because oftentimes in life, that happens to us. We may not have enough money in our budget, right? We don't live in the house we want to live. Don't live in the neighborhood. Our kids don't go to the schools that we want to next. We might get sick. Things happen in life. And so she had a philosophy that said, so what, now what? One of the things I used to say when I was a supervisor was, noted, move on. Because sometimes we get stuck. We get stuck as people. But I want you to validate what you're feeling. I want you to say, yeah, and be okay that it's okay that you don't feel so great. If you've seen that show, Abbott Elementary, that's a classic example of maybe an inner city school and some of the things that they undergo on a daily basis. They may not have all the resources, anything. And that one is a really good example of probably similar to what this principal, Clyde Wayman, describing when she was talking about her experiences on this TED Talk. So if you get a chance, take a look at that TED Talk because it's very inspirational. But that strategy or that phrase, the one I gave you, noted, move on, or the one that she says that so what, now what, will help you move on to the next thing that you have to do. Because you need a job, right? We need money to survive. We need jobs because it makes us feel better to be gainfully employed, meaningful employed. There's a lot of value that we get from employment, right? And so we can't stay stuck. We have to understand that we may not get the job, that we're going to get non-select letters, but what we do after that is critical. So that's what I would start out with. Acknowledge what you're feeling, but let's take the next steps. The other thing that I like to tell people is, and this video will be just a little longer maybe than some of my others, because I think it's so important. One of the other things that you want to think about is the fact that you shouldn't take it personal most of the time. And I'll say that because a lot of times why you don't get a job has nothing to do with you. And you'll say, Kim, what do you mean by that? What do you mean it doesn't? It has everything to do with me. I wanted that job, right? What I mean that I've worked in HR for many years. Sometimes jobs are pulled because of funding. Sometimes the organization will select an internal candidate, and that just is what it is. You either work there or you didn't work there previously, and you have a skill set that they're looking for that they didn't. So if they select an internal candidate that's been there doing the job, you can understand an employer doing that, right? Sometimes there's organizational changes that go on. So a lot of times there's different things that happen that really have nothing to do with you as to why you didn't get that job. So don't take it personal. And also, they may have thousands of applicants, right? And or they may be looking for a specific skill set that you don't necessarily possess. So if you can find out why you didn't get that job, that's something I'm going to talk about in a few minutes from now. But that's something that'll be valuable to you in your job search. So I'd like you to look at non-select letters as a way of finding out information to help you for the next job, right? So we're going to acknowledge, that we didn't get the job, and we're going to own those feelings that come along with that. Some people get hundreds of non-select letters, so many non-select letters. So you just have to kind of take that in stride as a part of the process somewhat. And we'll talk about in future segments about how you can kind of narrow down your job search to increase your chances of getting the job so you don't get as many non-select letters, right? I know someone that always applies like they did for college, like they apply for the Reach job, that CEO of Coca-Cola or something like that. And then they apply for, the job they really want. And then they apply for some jobs that's not really their first choice. So in those situations, you should expect lots of non-select letters, right? So we will talk in future videos about how to target your search so that you get less non-select letters and more job offers for you to choose from. Okay, so we've talked about acknowledging that you didn't get the job, that you received that non-select letter. We've talked about not taking it personal if you don't get the job, but learning from that opportunity. Then I'm also going to talk about how this should spur you to redouble your efforts. You might want to take a day or two or whatever time that you need to kind of, regroup, but you want to redouble your efforts. And what do I mean by that, Kim, when I say redouble your efforts? You're going to open up your contact list. You're going to let more people know that you're interested in applying for jobs. You're going to consider possibly careers that you hadn't considered in the past. You're going to scour Indeed.com and the One ads. You're going to talk to your current employer and to see what opportunities that are coming up that they believe. You are going to any churches that you belong to, associations that you belong to. You're going to explore those as well. So anything that you haven't tapped, you're going to redouble your efforts at finding that perfect job for you, and you're going to keep going. That's the one thing you're going to do. You're not going to stop. You're going to keep applying for jobs. You're going to make it a part of your normal day-to-day, week-to-week responsibilities, and you're not going to get fatigued. You're going to spend time with family and friends that'll kind of recharge you, and you're just going to keep going because sometimes it's a long haul thing. They're saying now that the economy we live in now is a great economy to live in, and there's lots of jobs and there's lots of jobs. But those of you that are out there looking for jobs may know that there may not be lots of jobs specifically tailored for you in your city where you live, right, with your skill set, paying what you want to pay. That pool of jobs might be just a little more narrow, right? But you want to redouble your efforts. Now, I always like to leave people and with a few resources, right? The Columbus, I live in the city of Columbus, so I always say city of Columbus, Ohio. So, but in your city as well, there are public libraries, which is free, and they usually have job resources. The library will even help you look for jobs. They'll show you where, at least in Columbus for sure, there's computers set up, there's places set up where they'll show you where to look for jobs and books that they have and online resources that they have for jobs. So that's one place to explore. The unemployment office is another place. They typically have resources for people as far as looking for jobs. And then consider places you hadn't maybe considered looking at for jobs. For instance, if you're not in the medical field, hospitals, they have all kinds of jobs, whether you're a doctor or a nurse, right? They have HR, they have communications, they have marketing, they have research. So consider places that you may not have considered before, right? There's libraries that have jobs. So that's one of the things that I would encourage you as you look at applying for jobs, as you look at receiving that non-select letter, when we have a tendency to feel a little down down about that. But I want to encourage you to keep looking. Put that non-select email aside and focus on what that next job for you will be, and just to keep applying, and something will work out for you. I'm sure of it. This is Kim with Scholarly Pursuits, and I just want to encourage you to come back and look at more of my videos. I also would like to encourage you to like and subscribe if you feel that this content is something that will be useful to you or someone you know. And I also ask you to comment, share any ideas that you have as far as what worked for you as far as finding jobs, and how you manage the non-select process where you didn't get the job or you didn't get the interview or something like that. And then I want to thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to talking to you in future segments. This is Kim. Thanks.